Happy Friday, everybody. We have a great show coming your way today on GoJo and Golic. Here's what you have to look forward to. And there it is. Tony Bennett calling it a career. We will get into that. Plus, the SEC. We got some big heavyweight teams playing this weekend. We will break it all down for you. And we have an update on Kawhi Leonard's injury, his return to play, all of that, a timetable. We got guests. We got it all coming your way on GoJo and Golic.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to GoJo and Golic. Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr., Jesse Cofield here. We are presented by Campbell's Chunky, the soup that eats like a meal, and we got a great show coming up. As always, download, subscribe, rate, review us, leave us a 5-star rating, and check us out live Monday through Friday from 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern on the DraftKings Network. Jesse mentioned some great guests stopping by. Vikings All-Pro safety Harrison Smith going to help us take a look ahead at the game of the weekend between them and the Lions in the NFC North. And Big Papi, David Ortiz, going to help us check out this postseason run in Major League Baseball. Had some wild ones last night that we can get to. Dad, your hometown Guardians, go ahead and get that done in dramatic fashion. Big Christmas, great sports nickname, nothing better.
Lifelong fan here.
Oh, my
Senior.
gosh. I mean, just an incredible comeback, ninth inning and extra innings. It was fantastic. Can't wait to talk about it. Can't wait to talk about my Guardians.
I mean, you and Travis Kelce both feeling like you have to go out and defend your Guardians fandom. Did you see that last night? He took heat for not wearing Guardians gear in the box with Taylor Swift in Game 1 when they were in New York, and then all of a sudden had to take to Twitter to try and defend his fandom here.
Yeah, I didn't see what he said about why he didn't wear a Guardian outfit, because I thought he should have as well. I mean, I know you're in New York. I get it. But still, you got to fly your colors.
He probably would have had to go out and buy it because he doesn't own any.
He said, I've been a Cleveland sports fan my entire life. Make it back to countless games over the years, both Guards and Cavs, just to enjoy these memories of friends and family, win or lose. And I don't wear a Cleveland gear one time, and all of a sudden I'm not a real fan. Ask anybody that was in or around the suite in Game 1 who was cheering for. They'll let you know I was there for the Guardians. So you guys both on the defensive there, trying to basically latch on as this team gets a win there in dramatic fashion. So we'll talk about that in a little bit, because that was exciting last night. Major League Baseball was good. The Dodgers went out there and clobbered the Mets. It seems like they're really pulling away and hitting the overdrive in that series. And then my, oh my, Al Michaels, they are really trying that man with these Thursday night football products. Last night felt unhealthy to watch. It felt like I was ingesting something that I'm going to find out years later is going to give me a rare disease. The Broncos go out and win 33-10 as Sean Payton comes back, has his reunion episode in New Orleans against the team that he used to coach, won a Super Bowl with. And, Dad, this one really, the first half never really felt close. The Broncos scored 13 points in the second quarter, and based on how hard offense was to come by for a Saints team that just had nothing and no one, it just never felt like they had a chance to latch on here. Dad, did we learn anything about either of these rookie quarterbacks in Bo Nix or Spencer Rattler last night?
No, I don't think so. I mean, Bo Nix has been playing fine. He's got the team, above 500 at 4-3, but you look at the way this team is built, and it's built They're playing great defense. And last night they ran the ball incredibly well. They ran it 35 times for 225 yards. Bo Nix threw it 26 times. So it was a running night for them. I don't think you can really put a game on Bo Nix's shoulders at this point. And again, that's not meant to be disrespectful. He's a rookie quarterback. And Spencer Rattler wasn't even supposed to be playing and got pushed into action because Derek Carr's oblique injury. And he has 2 linemen that are out on the interior. He gets sacked 6 times. He's certainly trying to scramble enough to get out of trouble. Gets sacked 6 times. One time it's a strip sack that leads to a 52-yard fumble return for a touchdown by Denver. It's just a mess. I mean, he's got nobody to throw to with both receivers out. Now Shaheed is out for the year. He had surgery on his meniscus, so Olave will be back dealing with a concussion, but Shaheed is out for the year. So, I mean, this team started off 2-0, scoring 91 points in their first 2 games, and they have lost now 5 in a row. So it has just turned on so quickly for New Orleans.
That's the thing. Like, the team is wholly unrecognizable at this point for all the reasons that you mentioned. And so now throwing a rookie out there on top of it, and we've talked all year about the offensive line especially. Yes, Spencer Rattler wasn't used to much help in that regard at South Carolina, but this is the NFL, and everything happens a lot faster. So he ends up getting yanked, and quite honestly, the only bit of drama in this game was that Jake Haener comes in and throws the late touchdown pass that pushes the over in this game on the one drive that he gets to go out there. Jake Haener, who before last game when Derek Carr actually got hurt, went and finished out the game that he went down in, the former Fresno State star. So people had to be sick over that one, watching him come in and toss that in a game that looked like a rock fight the entire way.
Oh, I mean, if you bet the over, you had to just be nuts, right? Outside of knowing you could make some more money, because the under was obviously the play with these 2 teams and the injuries that were going on. So you're right. That certainly flipped the script on the gamblers out there. But I mean, again, I don't think we learned a whole lot of anything. Again, Bo Nix, 5 touchdowns on the year, 5 interceptions, 61% completion. He runs well, ran 10 times for 75 yards. We know he can move. But I think this was kind of a foregone conclusion. Sean Payton going home to New Orleans. Now he has a victory against every team in the NFL, the 8th head coach to do that. But this was, I mean, I know nothing is guaranteed, but boy, this sure looked like this was going to be a Denver game the whole night.
Yeah, and for the Saints, again, I feel bad because it's one of those things that better to have loved and lost than never loved at all. Like, most bad teams go into the year and know they're going to be pretty bad and kind of can brace for it. The Saints got a taste of, when this roster was whole, we are pretty damn good, and now have to watch and understand that, even if Derek Carr comes back with that from that oblique injury, and Taysom Hill and some of these other guys, like Chris Olave is not a year-ending injury, on and on down the list, you're still so broken up front and in so many other ways, I feel like it's going to be difficult to pull this thing out of the ditch. Whereas for the Broncos, the one thing we do know, the defense rips. Like, that unit was the one unit that actually looked like it was competent, good NFL unit out on the field last night in that game. They harassed Spencer Rattler, to your point, 6 sacks, but he's pressured on 45.5% of his dropbacks last night. It was just a jailbreak in the backfield almost every other play for the rookie quarterback, who struggled to even get the ball out fast enough to not fumble it. So that unit went out and showed incredibly well. And for Bo Nix on the other side, Dad, it was sort of the perfect summation of the beginning of his career in the NFL, where it was, like you said, competent scrambling, and everything else was a grab bag. Balls dying, right towards the end of his pass there, balls in between 2 receivers to the point where you couldn't really tell who it was going, messy feet at times in the pocket. It's Dad, a guy who plays with a savvy that is outside of his physical abilities, meaning he doesn't seem flustered by a lot of these moments, but he's also not physically capable of going and doing the things that he wants to try and do. A lot of the off-platform stuff, on-the-move stuff, that's got stuff that guys like Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson can do because they've got otherworldly arm strength and great physical ability. Hell, Sam Darnold, who we're going to talk about for the game of the week, was famous for messy feet but being able to pull things off because he's got unique physical abilities. Bo Nix does not have those, and so if he wants to continue to try and play this style, I have a feeling it's going to be hard-pressed to find success at the high end here in the NFL because this isn't the Pac-12 where you can get away with some of these things.
Yeah, you wonder where the ceiling is for Bo Nix, right? I mean, if he's ever going to throw for high yardage and high touchdowns, or if this is a team that's going to have to live off defense and their rushing attack is, I think, just outside the top 10 of the NFL. So it's in the upper third. But they had a big night last night. Like I said, rushing for 225. They average about 124 a game. You're right. I mean, can Bo Nix develop these skills that are needed for the NFL? Now, again, you carry some skills from college to the NFL. He had 61 starts. So to your point, he doesn't get flustered by things, but the actual arm talent that he has is you're waiting for the jump, right? But again, he's a rookie, so you have to give him time because we have seen rookies who have played worse coming out and started, and we've certainly seen rookies that have played better coming out. So you wonder what direction he's going to go, and obviously you have to give him more time to see if he can get there.
You do. At the same time, these are things that I've seen that were reasons why we had questions about him getting drafted in the first round, and none of those so far have been answered in a way that really justifies that, I think, in the mind of a lot of people. And so for Denver, we'll see. Like, I still look in that division that they play in. The AFC West is dominated by the Kansas City Chiefs. Quite honestly, I think what Jim Harbaugh's already come in and done with the Los Angeles Chargers certainly has them as a better overall team. The defense for Denver is massively improved this season, and then the Raiders are in the middle of whatever the Raiders are doing. Max Crosby sounds like he is going through it there and could eventually be not a Raider if they don't start to turn things around pretty soon. And so Denver kind of in limbo, Dad, where Sean Payton has now, and this is the other interesting subplot of this, is we talk about Bo Nix and we can excuse it away because he's a rookie and talk about the runway they have. Sean Payton has now hitched his wagon to this guy. Sean Payton came back to coach the failed remnants of Russell Wilson and try and get the best out of that he could, and that was so bad that they end up sending Russell Wilson to the Pittsburgh Steelers where he might start this weekend. But now he comes in and decides, okay, like Sean Payton, we know when he's there, he's in charge, or at least very, very much attributed to the decisions they're going to make at quarterback. And he decides in a crowded quarterback class where they are taking the last quarterback off the board in the first round, Bo Nix is his guy. So this guy's future success is what Sean Payton's future in Denver hinges on. And that right now seems like a pretty tenuous grasp on his future.
Yeah, pretty precarious situation. But he has built defense and running game around it. I mean, there are three teams in the AFC West that have actual winning records, save for the Raiders. So he is built decently well around Bo Nix, as long as Bo Nix can improve. That's what you're talking about. Sean Payton, the quarterback whisperer, all the comparisons to Bo Nix and Drew Brees, especially in the college years. Well, I mean, we're gonna definitely need to see a jump from Bo Nix. But this, and again, to me, it's a bit unfair, but fair, because fair is where they judge pigs. I get it. You start in the NFL, you're expected to get the job done. Well, normally you would like to see some progression and getting better. They talk about the first year to the second year of the progress that a quarterback makes. Well, I mean, that clock gets sped up in the NFL now. I mean, you have to improve game by game your rookie year.
Especially when a lot of your first-round peers are going out there and looking pretty good. I mean, Jaden Daniels is on Offensive Rookie of the Year track. Caleb Williams is coming off a couple of improved outings, albeit against a lesser portion of his schedule. Even Drake May went out there, in that first game, there were lows, but there were also highs that were indicative of the talent that we saw under there. So it's the rest of his rookie class, Dad, that he's looking at and right now not stacking up with. Not the guys making it into year two, but the guys right now that are fresh into beginning their NFL careers, and like Bo, started from day one, a lot of them in the NFL.
Yeah, it's an uphill battle for Bo Nix. There was a lot of, like you said, people questioning him going in the first round. Some thought he was a first rounder, some thought he wasn't. Well, I mean, we're well past that now, and you're right. Sean Payton has hitched his wagon to Bo Nix. Like I said, luckily they have a very strong defense and a pretty good running game and they're not relying on the arm of Bo Nix to win games.
Sicko's Thursday night performance for the ages. It felt nice to get back to our roots with a game of that caliber. Al Michaels, I am so deeply, deeply sorry, but also love what this has turned you into. We've talked a lot about guys that are making the jump from college to the NFL. Jesse, let's talk about someone that's making the jump from college to the rest of his life right now. Big shocking news in college basketball yesterday for a national championship winning head coach.
Yeah, legendary Virginia coach Tony Bennett is calling it a career. No reasons given for the decision, which was unveiled simply in an online post by the program. Guys, this is deeply surprising given he had signed a contract extension a few months ago, keeping him in the job through at least 2030. So, I don't know. He just woke up and decided this is it, baby, and yet now he's out.
Yeah, Dad, this one was a stunner for a lot of my friends that I know who are Virginia basketball fans. And even people who've been around covering the ACC, while there may have been whispers of, maybe how much longer is he going to do this, you don't get the sense from anybody that this felt as imminent as it was now. And so it feels hard to view a lot of these any other way, Dad, than when you look at the list of coaches, again, since 2021 that have retired, and Roy Williams, Mike Krzyzewski, Jim Calhoun, Jay Wright, Jim Boeheim, and even expand that to college football with Nick Saban and some of the names that we've seen there, is a lot of these old guard of coaches who have gone out and accomplished already and have their career resume points, probably looking around to some extent at the current landscape of the sport and saying, yeah, I can go do other things at this point. This has changed to a point where I no longer relish this particular challenge.
Yeah, Jim Boeheim actually had a quote on Tony Bennett retiring saying, "We lost one of our great coaches solely because of the landscape that is college basketball. Our leadership has to stop focusing on how much money we can make and find a way to get the student athletes on board with an answer for NIL." Yeah, I mean, you have, and he's been a head coach who's a head coach at Washington State from 06 to 09, and then 9 to 24 at Virginia, 55 years old, been in this game a long time. And again, we don't know if that's the reason, the sole, as Jim Boeheim says, solely because of the landscape. We don't know that. But I mean, to bail this close to the start of the season is pretty surprising. I mean, he must have had been thinking about it and just reaching a conclusion. I mean, I'm not in the man's head, so I don't know. But the sport lost a great coach.
Well, and listen, like the first thoughts, unfortunately for me, the first thoughts you go to are either, is there some sort of scandal or is someone okay health-wise? Right. And thankfully it sounds like neither of those are the case in here, which is good because obviously Tony Bennett's someone who's got a really well-established, great reputation around the sport for what he's done in his time. And so you're happy to hear, especially on the health front, that nothing's wrong here or appears to be. It made me think, Dad, a little bit of Jim Harbaugh in the situation in Michigan we just saw with Sharon Moore, though, where Ron Sanchez is a guy who's back on that staff, who had been with him at Washington State, been with him at Virginia before leaving for another gig for a little bit here and came back. You wonder if that's sort of a coach in waiting thing to where you make it pretty difficult for them to go out and get someone other than the guy that you want to be the next head coach by choosing to retire this close to the start of the season. Again, kind of like with Jim Harbaugh in Michigan, took that so far into the offseason that it was going to be difficult for them to, I think, go out and get another candidate. Not that Sharon didn't deserve the job of his own merit for what he'd done, but just a little added help from the guy that had been at the helm with you there. Yeah, no, I completely understand that. And what the most likely option, associate head coach Ron Sanchez, who was 5 years at Charlotte before returning to Charlottesville, and associate head coach Jason Williford has been at Bennett's side during his time at Virginia. So, yeah, it could be one of those to go ahead and make sure one of those guys take control. But going back to what Boeheim said, and I'll say it again, for coaches that are tired of the landscape, this is on the adults. This is on the adults in the room not having any guardrails up or any kind of plan. And it's, as we use the term, wild, wild west of just NIL,
obviously the portal as well, but especially with NIL, there are just no rules right now, and that's on the adults.
The two-time National Coach of the Year, Virginia's national championship run in 2019, the pack line defense, all a part of the legacy. I've never seen people erupt with joy like Virginia fans at a home game listening to the shot clock violation buzzer go sound. Tony Bennett leaving a hell of a legacy behind in Charlottesville. Rolling into week 7 in the NFL. Pumped to get to bring on our next guest. You guys know him as Minnesota Vikings all-pro safety. I know him as my former teammate and the guy that at one point made me an NFL insider, at least for a day. Harrison Smith, kind enough to join us. What's up, buddy?
Thanks for having me on.
Now, appreciate the time, man. I was just whining and complaining about it being week 7 from the broadcaster standpoint. How are you feeling, man? 35 years old, 13 years into the league right now. How's the body feel at this point?
It's all right. It is what it is. Like you said, I'm the old man, but kind of figured out some processes that help me out. So it's going okay right now.
I heard about this like medieval torture device that you use every morning. What is this thing?
I think it's called Pravilo. I just saw it online and built it in my basement. It's like 4 pulleys with weights on them. I put my arms and my feet into them and just kind of get drawn and quartered. And it just kind of opens up the joints and makes me feel good for the day.
Boy, I see that backfiring on me. There's just no shot. I'd be trapped in that thing.
He's held together by a lot more muscle at this point than you are, Dad.
Yeah.
Now, honestly, though, I think it would help like a lot of people as they age. It just like opens your spine up and just gives you some room.
Oh, all right. Maybe I'll look into it and pray I don't get trapped in it. So, as Mike said, 35 years old, 13 years in the league, going through changes in the NFL over the years to where the offenses are now. But is there a scheme you haven't seen?
Guess I'd say no at this point, but there's always wrinkles coming down the bend. Everybody's always trying to make it harder on the defenses. I think the biggest thing in my career was when like the jet motion really got into vogue and people running real routes off of that, changing gaps in the run game as you're snapping the ball. So I think that's probably, one of the bigger things that changed in like the early mid-teens probably.
And with all that change, I mean, for you, especially the safety position, I feel like people talk about corner all the time, but your position where you can hit guys so much has changed over the years outside of, just physically taking care of yourself with some things. What adjustments have you had to make style of play wise to kind of the way that things have changed now?
Yeah, that's probably the hardest physical aspect. Growing up when we grew up playing Little League ball, it was just hit people as hard as you can, however you want. It's a good thing that it's changing and getting safer. So just conscious of my head placement, when guys are defenseless, when they're not, sacking quarterbacks, like trying not to land on them completely. It's hard, realistically. Like some things are just going to happen sometimes. But if you're trying to do it that way, and even like the kind of the rugby style tackle, I think is coming into play a little more. If you're trying to do it, that's the first step. Like I was fighting it for too long as a young player and got a couple fines I probably could have avoided. But do the best you can.
I don't want to get you in trouble with the league and with referees, but and as a former defensive player, I'll speak to it. It's got to be damn frustrating at times because it seems like if there's a hard hit, they throw a flag, and then they talk about it and hopefully pick the flag up. But it seems like it's getting harder and harder for a D lineman. Does he land? Does he put his hands out? Does he land on the quarterback? That while I agree, making it a little safer is a good thing for the head injuries, but it seems at times it just goes too far.
Yeah, I would, as a defensive player, like that's kind of how I see it. But at the same time, like if they're gonna call it, and it's not even just the fines, it's the 15 yards, and it's in that instance, it's probably a third down. You're getting off the field, and then you get a 15-yarder first down. Like you just have to try to do it, and hopefully it shows up. Sometimes you get caught up in kind of the chaos of game day. Also, if you can go for the ball more, it normally makes the hits like a little less violent or body position a little different. So that's just things you can try to do.
whatever you're doing is working, and whatever you guys are doing as a team right now is working. Let's talk a little bit about this year. You guys are undefeated right now. Your defense is the story of the season. Did you see this coming? This is a lot of change for you late in your career. Kirk leaves this offseason. You guys draft a rookie that looks pretty good and then gets hurt for a little while. Like, did you see any of this coming in terms of the success you guys have had so far?
I mean, winning in the NFL is hard. It doesn't matter who you play, whatever week it is, it's hard. I knew that we were going to be better than what people outside the building thought. Just looking around the roster, the way we're coached, the cohesiveness of the team, those things mean a lot once you really get into games, critical situations, third downs, red zones, turnovers, all those things. And like, we have a smart team with a lot of good players. There might not be superstars everywhere outside of Jets, obviously. But there's just a lot of really good football players with high football IQs, and we have some depth too.
Look at your defense and Brian Flores, and what defensive player wouldn't love an attacking style? Talk about his style and how much it helps the defense. Yeah,
I think it resonates with a lot of the guys we have on defense, just the style that we play. Kind of like I was mentioning too, there's a football knowledge aspect to it that the players kind of have to have beyond just the physical attributes. And we have a lot of guys that are kind of multiple type players, can rush the passer, can also get involved in coverage. But all of that, the way we play, there has to be high level communication and just high level knowledge of football across the board. It can't just be one or two guys. So the way Flo built the defense kind of gives us different things we can do and some options within calls. But as long as we're on the same page, we normally like the spots we're in.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have undressed some of the best quarterbacks in the league in this run that you've been on to start the season. Is what you guys doing on defense kind of an answer to all of the motion and stuff you mentioned on offense, where that's designed to sort of slow the defense down? Because it feels like now you guys are kind of having that same effect on offenses where you're making them all pause and take a beat.
Yeah, that's kind of I'd say that's the overall philosophy of it, that we can still play fast and aggressive without getting caught up too much with little things the offenses are trying to do to mess with your eyes and your alignments and things like that. You obviously still have to know those things and adjust accordingly, but we do like to try to dictate as much as we can, which normally a lot of defenses I'm in, you're adjusting to the offense, and we try to kind of flip the script a little bit.
So you play the Lions this week. I mean, what a matchup it's going to be. You've obviously gone against Ben Johnson more than a few times already. They put up 40 points the last two games. But, I mean, outside of them making their offensive linemen eligible, when you play a division game, how much of it is we know the scheme, we kind of know each other, and it's just about executing?
Yeah, that's the majority of it, to be honest. Like, we can scheme up as much as we want, and they can too. But if you're winning your one-on-ones, you're normally going to have a good chance. If you're getting the ball off of the other team, these division games, especially in this division, they're tough, they're physical. Ton of respect for all the teams in our division, and the Lions, kind of the role they've been on. Like you said, Ben Johnson's one of the best calling plays out there. So it's going to be a good matchup, and it's going to be one where, guys are going to be sore afterwards for sure.
I mean, your whole division, it feels that way right now. You guys have the best division in football. What's the biggest challenge that offense presents? We're so many people that see that on the outside and see the names of that offense. It's seen as much as you have. What is the biggest challenge the Lions roll out?
Yeah, it's tough to just point to one thing. They have really good skill players across the board. Their O-line is very good, and they play well together. Quarterback does a great job. He's a really high-level quarterback. And then they have a phenomenal play caller. So they really do have a complete set over there. And they run the ball well. They're very efficient in the pass game. They don't turn it over much. So it's going to come down to, like we were talking about, to winning your one-on-ones, tackling well for us, getting off blocks, stuff like that. The basics of football that sometimes people forget about when they watch NFL games.
So, again, for you, guy who grew up in Knoxville, Tennessee, played high school ball there, played at Notre Dame, 13 years now in the league. In a private moment, do you ever think, my God, I've been playing football this long. Do you expect to play this long?
Somewhere in like the deep recesses of my mind, I think I did. I probably would have never told anyone that, but yeah, it sometimes it does feel a little surreal, and I forget I'm the old guy now sometimes too, because I'm having fun and can still play at a good level. But like we played in London, and people were asking like, "Do you like these games over here?" And I'm like, "Man, if you'd have told me I was playing an NFL game in London when I was 10 years old, playing Pee Wee ball, I would have been pretty pumped." So yeah, I'm still having a blast.
I mean, and you're getting into some elite territory here. One of 7 players in NFL history with 20 sacks and 30 interceptions. Those are gold jacket territory, which seems like the trajectory for you, which has been awesome to watch as someone that saw you way back when, kind of going through what we did in college. But I guess last one here for me, man, looking at this year's team, we started off talking a little bit about the quarterback situation. How's Sam been as a teammate? He's a guy I'm sure you had familiarity with playing against during your time when he came into the league, and even the way he came into this team. You guys drafted JJ. There was some will they, won't they in terms of who might start going into the season. What's impressed you about Sam since he's come over to be the leader of this team?
A lot of things. Really just to start with his presence when he came in, like the way he just kind of seamlessly came into the team and is that guy that kind of mixes it up with everybody, but also just his calmness, and then also his confidence that I wasn't with him in New York and Carolina and those places, but I'm sure, he obviously went through some tough times there, but to still have his level of confidence and calmness, being able to operate and like step up and make some huge throws all throughout the season. He's a guy you love going into games with, just the way that he operates. And then, like you said, we've got JJ McCarthy. He obviously, got hurt in the preseason, but he's got a bright future too. So we're fortunate to have those guys.
No, it seems like a really special team, and the results, like you said, in a league where it's tough to win games, indicate that through the first, quarter and change of the season now. So, Harry, we appreciate the time, brother. Great catching up with you. Best of luck the rest of the way here, man. Hopefully we'll get to talk to you down the road, all right?
I appreciate it. Thanks for letting me sleep on that extra couch the last month of college, too.
You know what? I've been waiting around here this whole time, wondering when we were going to bring this up. Yeah, the last month that Harrison was in school, I guess you guys lived across the street from us. Your parents and you guys moved out of that place, and so we had about a month before you headed off to the NFL where we had you on campus. It was a great time. I feel like it all went really well for us.
one of many people that slept on that couch.
Yeah, it was a great place.
No, definitely. It was a great time, man. It's been fun to watch everything that's happened here. We'll see you around soon, maybe in Tahoe at least again next summer.
Oh, yeah.
You can help Dad out.
Good stuff, guys. Really quick, got to get your take on this, Senior. So we got news coming out of Cleveland that the Browns are moving stadiums out of Cleveland into Brook Park. Our resident Cleveland guy, what's your take on this?
Yeah, we're not going to get his take because my father forgot to plug his microphone in before the end of this, which honestly is probably for the best, Dad, because I did, coming off that Harrison interview, did get a pinprick of nostalgia because I was going through pictures the other day and saw me and a long-haired Harrison Smith at Michiana's hottest nightclub in Club Fever, which based on the amount of money Harrison's made, honestly, I should have grilled him on why he hasn't bought and revived Club Fever for the Notre Dame students now.
I was going to say he could buy a few of the bars you guys hung out at and renovate them. There's no doubt about that. But a good teammate for you that, as you said, lived on your couch for a while, of which many, many people lived on your couch. And I will try and leave my microphone plugged in for the next discussion.
My dad during the interview trying not to let us hear the sound of him chugging a sandwich right now. So congratulations to Dad on finishing breakfast and for Harrison on a fantastic season so far. Coming up next, we'll take a look at some of the big showdowns on a massive college football slate this season. Is it already time to panic for the Georgia Bulldogs heading into a matchup with the number 1 ranked team in the country? Next on GoJo and Golic. Welcome back to GoJo and Golic. Before we dive all the way into our preview for the college football slate coming up this weekend, we'll give you a little nibble right here. It's Cash It or Trash It. It is presented by DraftKings. Stay tuned because you'll hear more about DraftKings and all it has to offer throughout the show. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Age and eligibility restrictions apply. Void where prohibited. See DraftKings.com for details. Georgia on the road at number 1 ranked Texas. Year 1 in the SEC and already the big bads on the block. Texas, 5-point favorites in this game, and I think a team that I'm going to ride with, Texas and the points. Quinn Ewers in this passing offense need to shake off some of the rust that they showed against Oklahoma last week, but one of the best going up against the Georgia pass defense that's looked a little bit more suspect as of late. I like the Longhorns at home to win. right, hour number 2 here on GoJo and Golic. We'll talk to Big Papi, David Ortiz, coming up in about a half hour about Major League Baseball postseason that had some clutch hitting last night. And if we're going to talk to anybody about clutch hitting in Major League Baseball's postseason, Big Papi seems like the guy to probably do that with. But in the meantime, Dad, we got another monster slate. College football the last couple of weekends has been incredibly giving of some high-profile matchups, and none more so than the one we're going to get Saturday night. Georgia on the road against Texas, Dad. It is time to get to our college football preview. It is brought to you by Cheez-It. This college football season, we are feeling the cheesiest with Cheez-It, and it is cheesy, it is wonderful, it is delicious. Saturday night at DKR. Georgia, who started off this season as the top team in college football, now facing the current number 1 in Texas in this game. Texas coming off a rivalry win in Red River at the Texas State Fair against Oklahoma. And Georgia, Dad, we know ever since the Alabama game, all of a sudden now we've been talking about a maybe more vulnerable Georgia team than we've seen in the last couple of years. So who do you like, and what's the key to this matchup in your mind?
Well, I mean, I believe I like Texas in this one. Georgia not generating any turnovers, 5 in 6 games. That's the fewest in the SEC. They're missing tackles. I mean, you're averaging almost 10 missed tackles a game. And quite honestly, I just think Texas is a better team, especially offensively. I think they're more explosive. Quinn Ewers is a better quarterback than Carson Beck. Beck's good, but Quinn Ewers is a better quarterback. I just think overall they have a better team. We kept talking about Texas coming into the SEC, you know, stepping a step up in weight class, and they have more than answered the bell without question. Listen, there are. If Georgia loses this, they obviously aren't going to play in the SEC title game, and they're going to be in serious jeopardy of making the top 12. There are 3 undefeated SEC teams right now: Texas, LSU, and Texas A&M. Texas A&M only losses to Notre Dame. Now, Texas A&M plays both LSU and Texas, so they will play one another. LSU does not. The LSU doesn't play Texas. So there's going to be some beating up of each other. But 2 losses all of a sudden, we talked about can still, I think there'll be a 2-loss team in the playoff. It's just a matter of how many and who it is. And Georgia, like I said, will be just sitting and watching after conference championship weekend because they won't be playing in it if they lose, and just hoping that they stay in front of enough teams to be, at least in the top 11, because 12 obviously has you out if the group of 5 team is ranked below 12.
Yeah, as you mentioned, undefeated in the SEC. LSU has the loss to USC to start the season.
Undefeated SEC.
Undefeated in conference. And no, it's worth keeping in mind because, again, we're dealing in a world now where the conference championship is back to being. In the college football playoff with the 4 teams, it was just a resume point. Now it's a guarantee that you're in the dance. So that stuff's important with LSU, who people kind of left for dead after that. And after that Ole Miss win, I think that tune is going to decidedly change. The biggest question I have is about Texas's defense, Dad. They're number 1 in total defense and scoring defense on paper, but they haven't really faced anyone who can pass the way Carson Beck in this offense can pass. We saw that on full display in the second half of the Alabama game. I still have questions about that group up front, and I think Texas is going to be able to maybe not lock them down completely, but get after Carson Beck enough, because on the other side, that Texas offense, Quinn Ewers didn't look all the way back. Like, you clearly saw a guy coming off an injury, especially I think what was an oblique injury, and it affecting his ability to throw the ball. They were just able to go and overwhelm Oklahoma because the game script, offense, the running attack, play calling by Sark, all those things. I do still think it's enough, though. I'm like you. Carson Beck's a good quarterback. He wasn't like preseason consensus number 1 overall pick for me the way he was for some people. And so I'll take what Sark and this offense have built. I think that defense can do enough to harass and get them off the mark. I'll take Texas and the points in this one. 5-point favorites at home for what's going to be one of the biggest games of the season so far for all the reasons that we mentioned there. Jesse, let's take a look at another one here. We're back at the 3rd Saturday in October, and while last year produced a lot of fireworks, I think this year everyone's kind of looking for some bit of a get-right for 2 teams sort of limping here.
Yeah, Alabama, Tennessee, both been playing with fire the past couple of weeks. How do you see this game shaking out, and what are the implications for the loser?
Alabama 3-point favorite on the road here, Dad. Bama down at 7, Tennessee down at number 11. The over-under at 57 at this game. And this is kind of about the quarterbacks getting right. You know, Jalen Milroe, we've seen struggle for him against South Carolina, turnover plagued for a little bit here after a Heisman Trophy-worthy performance against Georgia. We know the loss to Vanderbilt and almost lost to South Carolina in the meantime. I trust him a lot more than I trust Nico Iamaleava at this point, based on what we've seen. For Nico, the last couple of games failing to eclipse 170 yards passing. He's looked a lot more like a freshman, going back to, I think, that Arkansas defense kind of deflating the balloon a little bit on what we might have thought, where this looks a little bit more like the Jalen Milroe version of the Tennessee offense, where, hey, we've got this incredibly gifted, physically gifted passer at the helm versus the Hendon Hooker offense that unlocked a lot of this 2 years ago.
I agree. Nico has come back down to earth a little bit in what had been a unbelievably high-scoring offense. I definitely trust Jalen Milroe more here. I trust Alabama here more, though, boy, oh boy. Alabama, I mean, the loss to Vandy and a 2-point win over South Carolina, you would have thought they would have caught their breath over the Vandy loss, you know, and really put it on South Carolina. Now, South Carolina's a pretty good team, so we'll give them that. But if Alabama wants to separate themselves, I thought they would come back a little bit stronger than that. But I still trust Alabama more in this game.
Yeah, Jalen Milroe, I mentioned, intercepted 3 times in the last 2 times. But I think the big key one for this, Dad, with Tennessee and what Josh Heupel wants to do on offense, it requires you to get up and get going, get the ball out quickly, not make mistakes in the passing game. Nico God, at one point I'm going to be able to say this name with confidence. Today is not that day. But Nico was sacked 3 times by Florida. Tennessee struggling to protect him in that game. And that's one thing I think Alabama can try and hang their hat on in this one, as that defense has struggled, especially on the back end where they're pretty young, getting and harassing a redshirt freshman quarterback and trying to knock him off the spot, I think can be enough for them to get the win. So you're picking Alabama on this one also, Dad?
Yeah, I'm picking Alabama, yes.
Yeah, I think all of the cigar smoke, the goalpost, honestly, the goalpost that sort of launched the 1,000 ships from last year, the ones that we saw in Tennessee as that game went absolutely haywire, now giving way to all the goalposts that we've seen from this season. We know this one too, rivalry game, and for Kalen DeBoer, who won a big game against Georgia already so far this season and now has a chance to win in maybe not the rivalry game. We know the Iron Bowl comes up later this year and has its own implications, but this would be a pretty big one since Auburn's not ranked in the same ways that Tennessee is now, Dad. For Kalen DeBoer to sort of steady the ship at a point where his grasp on things right now being questioned by a lot of people in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, I mean, his career record against ranked teams in the top 25 is pretty good, 13-2 across 15 career matchups. Now, those were not at Alabama, so he's in a different pool swimming right now. So let's see if he can come out of this kind of 2-game funk, even though they won one of the games. And bottom line, you need to win. But yeah, I definitely like Alabama in this.
Yep, I would agree. I think Jalen Milroe settles back in, him and his dynamic rushing ability, which give credit to South Carolina. Now, South Carolina's got 2 of the best pass rushers in college football. Tennessee's defense also incredibly potent up front. But I just think a week removed from that and kind of another gut check moment coming off that loss against Vanderbilt, the title rebound there. All right, Jesse, let's rip the Band-Aid off and talk about Notre Dame. What do you say?
It's time, guys. You have to face the music here. Notre Dame taking on a Georgia Tech team that maybe deserves a little more respect than their name has been given. Also, your defense very depleted here. How do we feel about this game?
Dad, this one, to me, a lot of it's going to hinge on quarterback health. Now, this is a neutral site game. They're playing this one in Atlanta, where the Falcons play at the Dome. Not going to be played on Georgia Tech's campus, but this one, for me, Dad, comes down to the health of Haynes King on that offense, the quarterback for Georgia Tech, a bit banged up. And honestly, I said before this season, and it remains true, reminds me a lot of Riley Leonard in terms of he's a good passer, but he's an incredibly potent run threat in an offense that for Brent Key makes a lot of use of that quarterback read option attack here and all of the speed that they've got at the different weapons on that offense against a Notre Dame defense that is reeling from a season where injury has been the defining trait overall, but got the biggest blow in the news this week that their quarterback, All-American Benjamin Morrison, going to miss the rest of the year with a hip injury that he had to have surgery on. They had already lost Boubacar Traore to season-ending injury, Jordan Botelho to season-ending injury, and Jaden Mickey, one of their third corners, to transfer after that 4-game redshirt kicked in. So it's a tough time for that defense, Dad, but if Haynes King can't go, that goes a long way in making this an easier task for the Irish.
Oh, that is so be horrible for Georgia Tech if Haynes King can't go. Because you're right, it is like playing against Riley Leonard, which the defense got to do in fall camp. With his ability to throw, but more his ability to run. So that to me is going to be the key to the game. If he can play, can he make it through the whole game with the injury? But boy, that defense for Notre Dame had been ranked well, but they just keep losing one player after another. I mean, it has literally been next man up. Lot put on Al Golden's shoulders, the defensive coordinator, on how to, losing the pass rushers, how to scheme a rush with a blitz or with confusion to the O-line. But boy, in the secondary, man, when you lose Benjamin Morrison, a guy that could just flat out cover, that's tough to replace.
Yeah, and Notre Dame's gotten good production in the secondary from some of their freshmen. Leonard Moore has stepped up and played pretty well for them in the interim. I'll be curious now if this affects the way that they use Jordan Clark at all, who's played the nickel a lot for them, the grad transfer from Arizona State, Ryan Clark's son, who I think has been a great playmaker for them, like a real nose for the football guy, always in the right space. Notre Dame's defense, my worry is still, the linebacker room continues to get reps under their belt. This is going to be an offense that tests their eye discipline a lot in Georgia Tech. And I know I'm kind of beating a broken record when it comes to that, but I think with a young group that's incredibly talented the way Notre Dame's is, all of this read option stuff and deception at quarterback, when you've also got Jamal Haynes in that backfield, who's an incredibly gifted running back that was a converted receiver, you start to worry about what the home run threat capability looks like against the defense that statistically has been one of the best in college football, with Howard Cross and those guys up front really making their presence felt.
Yeah, but they have certainly given up plays and gotten run on a little bit at times, especially early in games. It's just when you get in an option type of situation or quarterback running situation, you just got to be disciplined on the defensive side of the ball. Play your responsibility.
Yeah, so I hate picking Notre Dame games and including them at all. They're a 9.5-point favorite in this game. That number's probably a little rich for my taste. I think Notre Dame wins this one outright, but I just think the injury to Ben, the uncertainty at quarterback, it sounds like a true game-time decision for Haynes King. So that's another thing now as a defense. You've got to prepare with two quarterbacks in mind in a way that can make the beginning of this game a little bit hairy. So I think Notre Dame wins. The 9.5 kind of scares me, but I think they've got enough to get it done and keep it rolling. As the 12th ranked team in the country, we talked about, Dad, currently on that line of demarcation in the playoff that would be usurped by a quality group of 5 team who wins their conference. But Notre Dame still has all of their hopes and dreams alive in front of them, especially with ranked service academies still on the menu, who would have thunk it. Army and Navy now potentially as the ranked wins that could help bolster Notre Dame's strength of schedule late in this season run.
So true. So true. Notre Dame, you just get off to a fast start. They get off to slow starts. They need to try and jump on teams early.
They do. If you haven't seen Jeremiah Love yet, by the way, Notre Dame star running back this season, check him out. Worth the price of admission. The next NFL running back in South Bend has been sensational to start the season. Jesse, let's get to one more game here. A little bit of ACC Zombieland action, which we finally have an answer to a question I've been asking all season.
Okay, well, we have Saturday, number 6 Miami, looking to remain unbeaten in that tough road spot in Louisville. Hurricanes entering the game off a bye. Can you explain this Zombieland thing, first of all? I mean, I need some help here.
So, yeah, I'm reading this now. So if you've watched Miami football this season, you've seen Cam Ward do this celebration that players across college and the NFL have all mimicked. So apparently Cam Ward noticed Western Kentucky wide receiver Dawood Davis doing that. And apparently Davis told his coach that it means that they were telling their opponents, you stink like a zombie. Cam got hit when he threw it and stayed on his feet, so he drifted over to the sideline against Oregon State coach Jonathan Smith, and the zombie land did it right in his face. And so I think that's where it launched for people. So I still don't know where you stink like a zombie comes from or what the reference is, Dad, but this is one of those spots where I now feel old the way that I make you feel all the time. So I apologize because this hurts.
I'm not even going to try and understand it. I'm not even going to try and act cool like I know what's going on. I have no friggin' idea what this thing is, and I don't care.
You know what? We'll leave the cool to the guy we have coming up next. David Ortiz stopping by to talk Major League Baseball here on GoJo and Golic. All right, welcome back to GoJo and Golic. Major League Baseball having itself a heck of a postseason run, and last night was no exception. We saw clutch hitting late in the game to beat the New York Yankees. I can't imagine someone better to bring on to talk about that than our next guest here, three-time World Series champion, Major League Baseball Hall of Famer, and Fox Sports baseball analyst, David Ortiz, kind enough to join us now. Big Papi, how did that feel? I mean, watching a couple of guys in David Fry and Big Christmas go yard last night against the New York Yankees to get a clutch win in the postseason, something you know a little something about.
Man, I tell you, the Dodgers lineup is so deep, that it's incredible the way they can manufacture the lineup and get away with having an MVP sitting on the bench like Freddie Freeman and still score that many runs. It's something that I remember Dave Roberts saying in an interview that they don't put that team together to just go to the playoff. They put the team together to win a World Series. And now that I see this, I'm like, you know what? He was right. He was right. I mean, I was telling my my colleague last night, Alex and Derek, that can you guys imagine while we were playing having the Yankees lineup without A-Rod, without Derek in the playoff, or having the Red Sox lineup without me during the playoff? I mean, that would have been a critical condition, you know what I'm saying? And the Dodgers get away with not having a guy like Freeman in the lineup. I mean, it's crazy how deep they are.
Yeah, the Dodgers with the 10-2 destruction of the Mets. I mean, I guess when you look at it, baseball is such a long season. How much can you rely on the run the Mets were on that it would continue, or just the flat out fact that a better team is probably going to take them out?
I tell you what, if you think about the Mets in June, July, where they were 11 games on the 500, and facing the situation that they are facing today in the National League Division Series. I mean, it's a big jump. It's a good sign, even if they don't end up beating the Dodgers, and it's because for the second half of the season, it has been remarkable, the job that they have been able to do. I mean, I know the Mets has been spending a lot of money during the past couple of years trying to rebuild the organization and bring good players and give the city of New York a different perspective. I mean, I know that they have been under the shadow of the Yankees, the New York Yankees, for several years. But the Yankees are facing the same situation, even spending a lot of money. They haven't been able to face what they are facing right now, going to the World Series for the past, 15 years or more. I mean, it's something that the Mets have been wanting to do. I mean, with the signing of many big-time free agent and even trading for big-time pitching. I mean, they have put themselves in a good shape, in a good situation. And even if they don't end up beating the Dodgers this postseason, I think they are going in the right direction.
David, let me ask you, Shohei Ohtani homers in the first inning. He ends up getting walked 3 times. I'm sure every time you go to the plate, you're trying to get a hit. Mookie Betts is following that. They're not really pitching to Ohtani. They're walking him. So Mookie's coming up, who gets 4 hits on the night and 4 RBI. Do you have a different mentality when the guy in front of you basically is pitched around to get to you? Does it actually motivate you more to have a better at bat?
Well, going back to the Freeman conversation, you're talking about 2 MVP back to back. So you got to be careful the way you, even knowing that Ohtani is a unicorn, a guy that is on his own bubble, his own planet. I remember asking him last year, the year before last year, what planet was this from? Because this guy is incredible. You know, we were talking on the set last night about batters. When we struggle, sometimes we get a little too concerned about the way we're going to react with pitches going into the play. You want to be a little bit conservative. I mean, about taking pitches or looking at the waiting for the pitcher to throw in a strike to see how he's going to approach it. This guy is different. This guy, he don't care. He going to be swinging no matter what. Think what you think. Get me out as many times as you want. I'm gonna stay aggressive. And Ohtani, the way he approached pitchers, it's very unique. But people sometimes forget that Mookie is the center of the attention of that organization. He has been for quite a while. I mean, last night we were talking about Mookie being at the Met with the Dodgers, for the past 5 years. And I was like, man, the time is going fast, because I remember my homie being in Boston the other day, you know what I'm saying? So that tells you that even if you're not pitching to Ohtani, you're facing another MVP caliber type of player. You know what I'm saying? And what Mookie did last night, it's not surprising to me, because that's Mookie Betts.
Mookie, one of the few players going back to the Padres series, had struggled a little bit before the middle of that series where he got back going. Aaron Judge, a lot of people have been talking about before the last few games, his lack of home run production. How difficult is that during this time of year if all of a sudden you hit a little bit of a slump, which happens in Major League Baseball, to pull yourself out of that while you're in the middle of these winter go-home series?
Well, what people sometimes don't realize is that the playoff are short series, and anything can happen. You can get either super hot or you can cool off, especially the way the schedule is manufactured. I mean, sometimes you have to think, sometimes you have to sit down for 4 or 5 days, even a week. I mean, think about this. If the Yankees win the next 2 games at Cleveland and the Dodgers win tonight's game, they're going to have to sit down for about a week almost to wait for the World Series. So depending if MLB, I heard that MLB might, move it up to begin the World Series a little earlier, but that's not announced. That's a TBD. So as a baseball player, you don't want to sit down to wait that long because baseball is all about timing, and when you have to sit down and wait for that long to play the next series, that can cost you down the road, you know what I'm saying, especially batters. So in Aaron Judge's case, during the regular season, you probably can go 0 for 20 in 3 or 4 games, and it's not well known because it's a long stretch. It's a long season. But in the playoff, the minute you go 0 for 4 or 0 for 8, and your team is not winning, it's very well known. So a guy like Aaron Judge, I would say this, you got to be always prepared to see that pitch, because what people sometimes don't realize is that during the playoff, the average pitcher became to be a really good pitcher, and it's because they know that they don't have much time to execute it, and they cannot be out there making that many mistakes, especially against big guy like Aaron Judge.
So Aaron Judge goes yard in the 8th, but the Guardians win it 7-5 and 10. You're used to seeing Judge and Stanton hitting home runs, and they both hit home runs in the 8th to take the lead on Cleveland, get what they thought would be an insurance run in the 9th. But then 2 pinch hitters, John Kensley Noel and David Fry, in the 9th and the bottom of 9th and bottom of the 10th go yard. How crazy is that? I mean, to have pinch hitters come in and hit home runs in the bottom of the 9th and then the bottom of the 10th in a walk-off.
I was looking at a statistic last night, and when Stanton and Judge go deep in the same game, the Yankees are like a ridiculous number. I think they're like 41-4, something like that. When they both go deep in the same game. Now, in the other hand, the Guardian, it's a team that quietly, they have been dominating that division, and it's because of it. They get prepared, especially playing at home. I mean, these kids, they play really good at home. And what they did last night, it was not surprising for me, because that's how they manufacture their run, their game. I mean, they had guys capable of coming from the bench and do what they did last night. So the Yankees need to be really careful in this series, playing over there against the Guardian. That was the game last night that they should win. I mean, anything can happen. The Guardian bounce back and end up winning that game. That's how they have been all year round, especially playing at home. But they had to be careful, because they don't want to come to the Bronx facing elimination, especially against this Guardian, that they play really good at home.
Well, it is no doubt a high-pressure situation for a team that, like you said, has been thirsting to try and get back to that World Series stage that's eluded them for a while. Big Papi, who do you think ultimately we end up seeing in the World Series coming out of these 2 series?
Well, it looks like the Dodgers and the Yankees are the 2 favorites, the 2 favorite teams to be in the World Series. I mean, that'll be huge for everything, for television, for the fans, for everybody. I mean, I know the past couple of years, the audience have been facing teams that, for example, last year Texas, a team in Arizona, a team that haven't been in the World Series for a long time, but it seems like both of these two teams have pretty good chances to be facing each other in the World Series.
It's going to be an incredible matchup if we do get that. You're right, but still got time to go. And as we saw last night with the Guardians, you can't count anyone out on any given night. Big Papi, we appreciate the time. Thank you so much. It's been a ton of fun watching your guys' coverage of this. We're looking forward to the rest of this. We march toward crowning a World Series champion. We appreciate it.
Hey, thank you very much, guys. Have a wonderful day. God bless.
Thank you. You too. Dad, we talked about that clutch hitting by the Guardians in that moment because it wasn't just Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton going yard back-to-back. It was the fact that who they did it against, too. Emmanuel Clase in the 8th inning there, the guy who had been closing the door for them all season long, he had given up 2 home runs the entire regular season and then gives them up on 2 back-to-back pitches there in that moment. So it's, Xerxes in 300. It's the God King making the God King bleed in that moment if you're the Yankees and cracking the confidence of that Cleveland Guardians dugout in a way that they did not let sink them for the entire rest of that game.
Yeah, I thought, too, not to get too specific, but Clay Holmes on the pitch to David Fry, that was a 1-2 pitch. 1-2 pitch with 2 outs, and he put the ball in the strike zone, which, I mean, you talk about expecting a garbage pitch at that point. I would imagine he may want that one back because that one was in the kind of, it was in a little bit, but it was still in the strike zone, and Fry made him pay.
He did, no doubt about it. That one, the big hit there. But, I mean, what better nickname, too, for John Kenzie Noel? Yeah. Big Christmas getting a hit in that moment. Add that to the lexicon for Stu Gotts. And the call last night for that one was incredible. Something like the best present under the tree, that game-tying home run. It was just a sensational end to a postseason where it looked like the Guardians might succumb after that, where, hey, you're waiting around for Judge and these guys to start to get the bats going. And if him and Stanton were going to hit like that, then maybe, unfortunately, them's the breaks. But give Cleveland credit. I still ultimately think, like David said, we get Yankees and Dodgers in the dance in the final when it's all said and done. But it's nice for Cleveland, I'm sure, to be able to get a win on this stage as they're trying to battle back here.
Listen, I would love the Guardians to come back and make it to the World Series, but I also understand from a TV and a fan standpoint, Dodgers, Yankees, the matchup, just the Paul Bunyans of Shohei, of Stanton, of Judge, the size of those guys swinging the bat, it just all sets up, for a coast to coast World Series. That being said, God, I hope my Guardians can come back.
These large home run hitting lads are ready to beat the piss out of some baseballs for this World Series. And David's right. Every TV exec, eyes wide, thinking about Dodgers and Yankees for a Dodgers team trying to cap off an incredible run with a roster that we know had big expectations. Coming up next, let's talk about a roster that seems to be shrinking from expectations more.
Welcome back to GoJo and Golic. Jesse Cofield, Mike Golic Jr. and Mike Golic Sr. You guys, ESPN dropped their rankings of the top 10 NBA players in the league. Does anything stand out to you about this list? Any players you would shuffle around? We got, starting at 10, Ant Edwards, KD, Joel Embiid, LeBron James, Steph Curry, Jason Tatum, SGA, Giannis, Luka at 2, and Jokic at 1. How do we feel about the list, fellas? Pretty spot on?
Yeah, I think it makes perfect sense at this point. It's a good reminder we need to savor this, because the fact that the names Steph Curry, LeBron James, and Kevin Durant are still in that top 10, even after we dealt with the second round in the postseason without all of those guys this last year for the first time in what felt like decades, that we've got incredibly great players that are probably nearing the swan song. For LeBron James, Dad, we know that manifests with his son and JJ Redick this year as the big new pieces there. Kevin Durant and the Suns probably in one of the more interesting positions with a team that's been hampered by injury since he came over there. And then Steph Curry just looking around at a roster that's completely in flux outside of him.
Yeah.
And Draymond Green, no Klay Thompson for the first time in a while. So there's a lot of question marks about those guys, trying to see how they finish out the twilight of their career.
Yeah, I don't know about Golden State. They were at the 10th seed. They were just in the play-ins. And that roster, I don't think it's gotten any better. But, you know, I would imagine Anthony Edwards is a little disappointed at where he is at 10 with his attitude, which again, I'm not criticizing, but boy, we know the personality he has. So you look at just on the outside looking in on guys that will look to bump into the top 10. 11 was Victor Wembanyama. 12 was Jalen Brunson. 13th was Anthony Davis, then Jaylen Brown, and then Devin Booker. So that was 11 through 15. I imagine Victor's be pretty close to jumping into that list.
Yeah, this will probably be the last year we're dealing with a Victor Wembanyama-less top 10 of NBA players. I like to think that Jaylen Brown, who tweets like an NFL wide receiver, is somewhere stewing over this news too, coming off the summer that he had, being left off Team USA, the general tension that exists among the stars that we judge in Boston. That feels like a guy who at some point is going to give us either a great soundbite or a great tweet talking about being slighted in this situation. And then at the top of this, Dad, Luka Doncic and Nikola Jokic. It's their league. Luka Doncic, the MVP favorite at DraftKings Sportsbook right now. And I think last year they really seemed to kind of find themselves, right? The trade deadline acquisitions of some beef on that team to go along with Kyrie Irving, who had that renaissance season. People have been wondering, would it ever come, as the wingman for Luka Doncic, who's the clear number one on that team. We mentioned all the similarities sort of stylistically, not athletically, with him and LeBron James as that sort of point forward build that Kyrie Irving has thrived alongside. And so I think that once we saw Kyrie back to normal on the court, it seems, less conspiracy theories off it, it sort of upgraded, I think, what we think is possible for that Dallas Mavericks team now.
Yeah, but I think everybody looking at Oklahoma City, right, as the team that may be the team in the West. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the guy I would lean toward MVP if that happens. I just think they're ready for a run, even though they have an injury to their big man Hartenstein. He's out for a bit. I just think this team is ready to make a run.
I would agree that Hartenstein injury does loom large, although Jesse, probably even bigger injury news yesterday with some loose connection to the Oklahoma City Thunder. If you squint hard enough here, big news on the Kawhi Leonard front for the Clippers.
Yeah, he's reportedly out for the foreseeable future, out indefinitely as he nurses that knee injury that kept him out of the Olympics this summer. And it's crazy because the ripple effect of the situation is that if the Clippers miss the playoffs, their lottery draft pick goes to the Thunder, which at this point, I mean, Paul George is gone, James Harden isn't gone, so kind of seems like this could very well come true.
Yeah, Dad, the potential crop for Oklahoma City in the upcoming draft, that's supposed to be one of the best drafts in like the last 2 decades, headlined by Cooper Flagg, who's at Duke. They have the one unprotected clip via the Clippers, one top 10 protected pick from the Jazz, one lottery protected from the Heat, one top 6 protected from the Sixers, and their own pick via the Thunder. So what Sam Presti has done there, amassing the war chest for a while and rebuilding the young roster in a place, Dad, where they had so many stars going back to that roster picture that slowly eroded over time of Kevin Durant and James Harden and Russell Westbrook that is now given way to a completely new group of some young stars. What they've been able to continually do at a place that I get, 2024 in the NBA, you can be a star anywhere, but we know difficult to attract free agents in Oklahoma City the way that you can at some of the coastal elites. The job that they've done there is nothing short of remarkable for a team that's now a finals favorite this year.
Without a doubt. They've done an incredible job of building, and the Clippers are just completely falling the other way. For the 4th seed last year, 51-31, but Kawhi's out for a long period of time. He was a leading scorer, averaging almost 24 a game. Paul George was second, averaging almost 23 a game. He's in Philly. I mean, they have old parts left. I mean, this is a team that is just going to fall off the map, it seems.
Yeah, and it's one of those where Kawhi Leonard's coming off the good Kawhi Leonard injury season last year, where he missed the final 8 games of last year's regular season and then was limited to just 2 games in their first-round loss to Dallas in the playoffs, but overall had been playing a bit more. He had sat out that entire 2021-22 season with the ACL injury. He's missed 179 of a possible 435 games since he joined the Clippers in 2019. And, Dad, that's kind of what made this offseason even more flummoxing when you look into the real micro sense. Like, we've talked a lot about Steve Ballmer getting ready to open the Intuit Dome here that's already had concerts, but he's getting ready to try and plant his flag here in Los Angeles. And then the team got weaker this offseason. You let Paul George leave. James Harden's now going to have to man the helm by himself. And we've seen early in his career, when you had prime James Harden, that was something that had a shelf life, especially in the postseason. So it's a really difficult proposition now for them to try and go and get butts in seats and drum up interest around this new building when you've got a team that you knew was broken, and then when Paul George left, got lesser talent-wise.
Yeah. I mean, the timing couldn't be worse to open a new building, right? And to be the new spot in the NBA, because every new arena is the next arena. But it's not going to be a 51-31 team that fills that plays there 41 times. It's just not. Kawhi Leonard, the fans are going to see him in street clothes a lot of the time, which is obviously not what you want. So bad timing award for sure for Ballmer and the new arena. This is just a team that's going to have to kind of, reshuffle the deck. That they went for it with the older players. Now 2 of them gone. One has gone to another team. The other is gone by injuries. They happen to be their 2 best scorers. So it's a team in kind of reshuffle mode.
Yeah, it's one of those things, Dad, you understood what they saw on the talent when they tried to bring this all together for the Clippers that had the Lob City era and have been trying in earnest to break through in a town that's just never going to love them the way that they love the Lakers, but at the very least have competitive teams. And the risk was always injury with that core when you brought them over. And they have done nothing since the inception of that group that now lost one of the 3 to prove to us that we should believe in this team beyond a couple of exciting stretches in the regular season where maybe they put it all together. They have just never been able to stay healthy consistently when it matters the most. And so, again, while we may spend a couple of weeks in December if they get healthy at the right time, wondering if they rise to like a 3 seed in the Western Conference, ultimately I can't believe that it's going to last because nothing about this team's history has shown me anything else. And so if you're them, you brace for what you always have as a Clippers fan, which is largely disappointment. And if you're Oklahoma City, you just sit around here and assume that good things are going to keep happening to you relative to draft picks, because that's all Sam Presti, who's had this Midas touch, has known how to do.
Yeah, he has. And I wonder in the top 10 list, who outside of the top 5 has the best chance of becoming number 1? You have Jokic, Luka, Giannis, Shea, and Tatum. Steph Curry's going to be gone. LeBron's going to be gone. Joel Embiid can't play a long enough season. Kevin Durant's going to be gone. It seems to fall on Ann Edwards.
It's 10 and 11. I truly think the next 5 years of basketball, as Ann Edwards is a guy still young, 22, 23 years old. Wemby younger than that. We know the prime for NBA players tends to be like 27, 28, 29. So for these guys, the next 5 years, I think is going to be jockeying for position. If I have to bet, I take the most unique physical skill set and say Victor Wembanyama has the best chance to be number one before it's all said and done. So it's going to be fun to watch those guys duke it out. But for Clippers fans, thoughts and prayers in advance. Coming up next, we will get to a very important anniversary that has come up today in the Golic household. All right, guys, time for this, that, the third. 3 quick stories to send you into the weekend. Make sure you download, subscribe, rate, review our show. Leave us a 5-star rating. Check us out here live Monday through Friday, 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern on the DraftKings Network, our YouTube channel, Samsung TV Plus, the Roku channel, Xumo Play, Vizio Watch Free Plus. We're everywhere you need to be, so come hang out with us from 8 to 10. But if you have to miss us live for whatever reason or any of our great guests, shout out to Vikings All-Pro Safety, and I'll say it, future Hall of Famer Harrison Smith for joining us to talk about their season, and David Ortiz, the current Hall of Famer, 3-time World Series champion, Big Papi, talking about the MLB postseason. If you missed any of that, get it wherever you get our podcast or right here as soon as we get done on YouTube. Guys, let's start off this, that, and third with a little bit of holiday cheer. Lifetime has greenlit the Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift-inspired movie. We got our first look at it, and part of that looked pretty familiar to folks here, as the movie stars Jessica Lord and Leith Walschlager, who last time on Dragon Ball Z has been seen playing Rob Gronkowski in the Aaron Hernandez show on FX. So this guy, Dad, now is going to go from playing Rob Gronkowski on one show to playing the Travis Kelce-inspired character in the Hallmark movie about the Chiefs and Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. So this guy, who is a former football player himself and apparently friends with Rob Gronkowski, seems to have really nailed this down. If his Travis impression is anywhere near as good as his Gronk, which is spot on, this guy has a real future considering the popularity and appetite for these two.
Boy, he got two characters to play that are pretty energetic as well, right? In Gronk and Travis, that's impressive. I mean, so he's kind of the stand-in guy, the actor guy for any show that's about a tight end. I like that. And Lath, I thought Lath was an interesting name, so I actually looked it up. It said it's a masculine name of Arabic origin that means lion or brave.
Oh.
How about that?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I just love
Like,
that he's just fully leaning into being typecast as the big football player. He's like, yes, give me these roles.
Right, you see how well being typecast has worked out for like Kevin Hart, The Rock, all these people that like The Rock gets to play himself in every movie. Same tan t-shirt, same jacked frame, go and acquire currency. This guy won't be making The Rock money, but Dad, he can fit into the big guy roles. He's 6'4", 255. He's an actor and a stunt double who also was a D-end at Delaware, the University of Delaware back in the day, and spent time with training camp in the Cardinals, I think up until 2018. So had a brief flirtation with pro football long enough to get the ebbs and flows to use as subject matter to fill his background for these roles, and now has just gone out and nailed the Gronk. Like the Gronk impression, if you haven't seen the clip, again, it's from the FX show American Sports Story and Aaron Hernandez that our buddy Dominique Foxworth helped write for. If you haven't seen the clips, go and close your eyes because it's Gronk to a T.
Yeah, it's
so
incredible.
I wonder if before he started being in front of the camera with lines and, moving up in the actor world, if he like played a football player in football movies who didn't have any lines, but was like, a player, just they try and look for bigger guys who don't have lines and are just look like a football player.
Yeah.
There's a shortage of those bodies in Hollywood. You need to find big people to make this happen. The pressure at this one, a little bit more higher stakes, though, because I'd imagine, since it is somewhat in their likeness, there's a decent chance Taylor Swift watches this. And so if you're this guy now, the audience certainly changes a little bit with it. Oh, Jesse, you don't think she's going to watch?
I cannot imagine that Taylor Swift is going to watch this.
I mean, it's kind of, it's clearly based on them and their love story a bit. And so you don't think there'd be some curiosity, even though it is a was it a Lifetime or a Hallmark movie?
A Hallmark? I feel like she'll read the Cliff Notes. She'll read the plot summary. I don't know. I can't imagine, given how busy Taylor Swift is, her sitting down for 120 minutes to watch a Hallmark movie.
Hey, man, you throw Christmas Tree Farm on, you get out the next snack that we're about to talk about, and you settle in for this movie. Jesse, let's talk about that here. The holiday season is nigh, and young Deborah is out here letting everybody know.
Yeah, another thing I don't think Taylor Swift will be indulging in, given that she makes her own Pop-Tarts, but holiday season is here. We have all kinds of limited edition, special edition snacks and sweets. And little Debbie, like you said, getting in on the action with the Christmas tree cake donut. GoJo, what say you? Will you be sampling this delicacy?
I'm going to punish these in the driver's seat of my car at some point next week when I find them. Yeah. Dad, this is truly a combination of two of the great snacks of our lifetime, the Christmas tree snack cakes and the Little Debbie donuts, all of them coming together in a glorious union.
I'll eat these like potato chips. I mean, just polish off a bag. Jesse, I think I know the answer. Have you ever had a Little Debbie Christmas tree cake?
I've never had a Little Debbie anything, Senior. Just disgusting.
Wow. Again, I can't act surprised at this point. I'm not going to sit here and lose sleep over it. It's just, this is not the world that Jesse's inhabit. We have basically grown up as far apart as two people, and people who are all grounded in Jesse was an athlete. Jesse played college sports. We have a bunch of crossover, and that's basically where the similarities end.
Listen, I had a crazy mom. We weren't allowed to have this stuff.
No, but I would see, listen, when the kids were growing up, they had friends who had kind of the crazy mom as well and didn't have any sweets in the house. When you go over other kids' house, when kids used to come to the Golic house, man, they went whole hog on the treats that we had because they couldn't have them at home. So I got to ask, Jesse, didn't you ever go over to a friend's house and experiment with Little Debbie?
I did, Chelsea, experiment with Little Debbie. This is making it sound really nasty. No, I did not go experiment with Little Debbie. I did Chelsea Passfield. Shout out Chelsea Passfield. We used to go over to the Passfield's house and eat forbidden treats. So I had like pizza rolls and stuff at Chelsea's house. But I can't remember having any Little Debbie.
You know what, Jesse, you're not alone in this. I saw Patrick Mahomes the other day doing a Q&A on radio say he's never had a Pop-Tart in his entire life, which stunned me.
It's more common than you guys think, all right?
I disagree. I think we're much more representative of like the middle America eating experience than you or any of the people that you're going to reference in this conversation are. We've got the palate that the people want. And this is just a good reminder, too, as we start to see the influx of these treats. And I reference a little Christmas Tree Farm, the Holiday Taylor movie. I want to start to roll out and present what I have been championing for the last few years. It's called Woke Christmas, and I understand that a certain group of people have co-opted the term woke and made it a bad thing, but I like to believe that Christmas and the holiday season are an idea that we need to explore. For some people, it's got the religious affiliation, and I respect that. But for the rest of us, holiday lights, treats, sounds, and music, movies, all of them are here to help us curb seasonal depression. If you've ever lived in the Northeast or the Midwest, you have been through that hell of not seeing the sun for months on end. And sometimes the lights, sounds, and tastes just make you happy. And so, with that in mind, if people are going to try and tell you you can't put your Christmas decorations up before Thanksgiving, I'm here to tell you Thanksgiving is a day, and Christmas and the holidays are a season. If you want to start that November 1, then by all means, when the Halloween decorations go back in the desk, in the drawers, and the attics, feel free to take out the Christmas stuff, rock with it until Valentine's Day, live your truth, don't let anyone tell you otherwise here, and go and battle the monster that is seasonal depression.
Christmas tree lights are already, the Christmas lights are already on the outside of my house. They're not turned on yet, but they're ready to go.
Good. I can't believe people have a problem. It doesn't hurt anybody if people put their decorations up early, or if you have a Sirius radio station that has Christmas music early. Enjoy it, man. I mean, just you don't have to listen. You don't have to look if you don't like it, but don't rip. Don't rip what other people enjoy.
Let's all get ready to match our freak. Jesse, let's finish with the third. Speaking of freak stuff here, a very important anniversary in my apartment today.
Congratulations, GoJo. It is the 1-year anniversary of your opossum-versary. It's when you found an opossum in your apartment. And congratulations to you. It hasn't returned since.
No, I am 1 year possum free is the what this day signifies here, as we see animal control from Manhattan Beach unfortunately failing to go and actually get the possum out from underneath it, escaped through the hole in the wall that I plugged promptly after that, and since hasn't been compromised.
Wow.
So, but let me ask you a question. It's been a year. Have you opened that cabinet under the sink in the last year?
Oh, yeah. I go back and check every once in a while just to see if the soft coos and snores of the possum are back. And I'm going to be honest, I kind of miss him. Wally, my little buddy, if he wants to come back for just a day and say hi, I wouldn't mind it on the anniversary. I just want to know that he is well. So shout out to opossums everywhere for going and doing your thing. Shout out to you for listening to this dumbass podcast and show. If you do, make sure you download, subscribe, rate, and review, and let us know how much you enjoy it. Leave it a 5-star rating. And have a great weekend. We'll talk to you guys Monday.